Hi, everybody. Welcome to the She Who Glows podcast. My name is Holly, your host, and I am here today with the most amazing, special person who I'm so excited to have on, Rachael Morley, who has just been such a pivotal part of my journey in life, but also my awakening. And I'm just really grateful that you're here to share your beautiful wisdom and your voice with everybody today. And just to note for everybody that we connected through Rachael attuning me to Reiki and energy healing. And we've just had the most magical experiences together. And it's something that's even been hard to process mentally and to put into words. So I hope that the magic is felt throughout today's podcast conversation with Rachael. And yeah, we'll dive straight in. Welcome, Rachael.
Thank you so much, Holly. Honestly, this is such a blessing and an honor to be on your podcast. Watching you grow through the experience of energy and going through your attunement process and your initiations, like honestly, it's been such a beautiful thing. And I hope we're able to talk a little bit about that today because there was so many magical things that happened throughout your journey and continue to happen. And just being here today and seeing you now and how much you are glowing as this beautiful, radiant woman is so, it's so humbling. Like, I feel so emotional. So,
Oh my gosh, that's really got me going. I feel that so much as well. And I think as soon as I connected with you, which I'll share the story of as well, it was like I just instantly felt comfortable with you because it is such an intimate thing that we do. So I'll start off by how I got to know you and the journey that we went together, and then we'll roll from there. So I did my first yoga retreat, I think it was about 2 years ago now, which has just flown by. And I was doing yoga for people and placing my hands onto their bodies, chest, adjustments, things like that. And people were saying it felt like something was going on with the hands. They were feeling some sort of energy healing, which I didn't even know what that was at the time. And then there was also some oracle cards there that I pulled, and one of them said, "You're a healer and you should practice things like Reiki." And so I just took that as a sign. A mutual friend recommended me to Rachael to do my Reiki attunement. And I don't know why, but I actually expected to turn up to Rachael's for a like group energy healing session. I don't think I've told you that before, but it ended up just being a one-on-one. I was like, wow, this is a really good like price for what I'm gonna get from this. And I remember turning up, she picked me up from the train station. I was in a bit of a a difficult place with my health. I'd just finished my yoga retreat, had bad tonsillitis for about a week, and just really struggled energetically, emotionally with life in general. Just wasn't really sure what was going on. And I just think when I met Rachael, it was a perfect time. And so we went to a house and I just felt so nurtured. She cooked the most amazing food. We sat and had cacao, and then she took me through the Reiki attunement. So that's my side of the story. Rachael, what was your like experience of first meeting me and taking me in, and what kind of things did you experience during the energy healing attuning to me as well?
it's always such a different journey from person to person. It's always so unique. And usually, like a couple of weeks before or the week before, I can start picking up energetically on what that person really needs within the experience or what they're going to receive. So, as you were saying, you had tonsillitis, a little bit burnt out after retreats, which is quite normal with the come down of it. But your whole throat, it was like it was time to open this up. It
Yeah.
was time to open it up in such a more authentic channel. It was already there, but more needed to come. And so a lot of your attunements, that first attunement was very much like throat energy, heart energy, bit of womb energy. There was a lot going on because it really supports this natural presence and alignment within the body. You're welcoming this energy into you in such a high dose of
Mm.
of light energy. And as this energy works through you, you go through your own sort of I'll say purging process. You know, your body starts to adjust and align just from that moment of making the decision to start connecting with energy on a much deeper level and start understanding your own energy and opening up to that. So there's so much that goes on with that first step. And it was so beautiful and so intimate to be in that space with you, just one to one. And that's really how I do like working with people, because it means that you get that time to really hone in on what that person needs, and just have that experience together as well, you know, that deeper
Yeah.
connection.
I just remember feeling so heard and seen. I think it was 2 days, the first level 3 Reiki attunement. And I think I was like, things from my childhood just kept coming up, and I was just like reeling it off. And so, even though the Reiki energy healing attunement was healing in itself, even just being in your presence and being able to like talk about these experiences that I'd had and how sensitive I'd felt as a child, and all these things that were going on even just before I came to you with like spirit activity happening. It's like, who do you talk to about these things? Because it was just me starting to like find more connections with people who were open-minded to knowing that spirit existed. And you know, not everyone has those experiences, but I was going through that. And so having Rachael to guide me and to be like, this is going on, this is how you can do this and that, really did support me during that time. And as you say, it was a massive purging process as well. I think a good few months to 6 to 8 months after the attunement, I was having therapy. I was really going through a lot of release emotionally. It was intense. I won't sugarcoat that, but it's so worth doing that, because the place that I'm in right now, as we just spoke about before, the happiest and settled in myself that I've been, it really is just so magical. So,
Yeah.
going on. Can you still hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, cool. So, from that experience, I don't know if people know so much what energy healing is. So, I know that you've said that it's light coming into the body. Is Reiki different to just energy healing? How would you describe or tell people what it is?
So energy is energy. There's no difference whether it's Reiki, whether it's shamanic, whether it's Sekhem, whether it's pranic, like energy is energy. And what it really is, working with energy, is understanding how we can, I guess you could say, manipulate energy in ways, how you can harness energy, how you can adapt to higher levels of energy coming into the body, because we are energy. Every single part of us is made of energy, whether it's our skin, whether it's certain organs, whether it's our voice, you know, whether it's our heartbeat. All these parts of us are an energy in itself, you know, and then the world around us holds different energies. Spaces hold energy, you know, points on the earth hold sacred energies. So energy work is really understanding how you can harness energy for yourself and navigate life on an energetic
Yeah.
circumstance.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful explanation. I think can be quite difficult to explain sometimes, because it's something that I think is more felt than seen. And I think a lot of this world is about being able to see things with logical explanations. So thank you for that. And then going forward from there, I would like to talk a little bit about when we experienced going into the forest near yours, because I know you are someone that is connected very much to elementals, and he, I remember talking to you during that walk in the forest, and I was like, I don't know, I think after this experience happened, I was like, I think magic exists. And when you're younger, as a child, you want to believe in fairies, you want to believe in unicorns and magic. And I guess as you get older, you think, well, that's obviously not true. It's all a lie. And actually, the things that I came to experience with you from things like angels and yeah, elemental things, it's just expanded my mind. So, what was your experience when we went into the forest that day?
I want to take it a little bit of a step back to come forward with this story,
Yes.
meet there, because I
Hmm.
think, the biggest thing is when we start on a path like this and we're starting to explore things and asking questions that we wouldn't have asked before, or having experiences that seem to be a little bit out there and far-fetched, or as you said, you can't see with your physical eyes, but you can feel it or sense it or see it through the third eye. And you're in this place of trying to understand these things and going through your own personal awakening. It can feel really, you feel really alone, and it's
Hmm.
really hard to understand where to turn to or who to trust in that time, because we've been made to believe that a lot of these things are bad or evil or negative, or that it's not there, it's not true. So we've been almost disembodied from these experiences,
Mm.
when in actual fact, these are just very natural experiences that we are here to have as humans, to actually see the magic, to understand the magic again. And even though we go through life and probably never fully understand it, and
Yeah.
as you start to awaken to the energies and you go through certain attunements and you are on your journey, certain things come up to support you to remember who you are, remembering who your soul is. So our
Mm.
souls, they're a lot older than, what this life is. Some of us have been here many, 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 many times, or some of us might be a new soul. And in your case, your soul needed to show you and support you to remember that you are magic. And the experiences that I've had with quite a few clients, going into nature and connecting with nature, because that is where we really will remember and see the truth in energy and be able to experience that magic, has been really profound. I've had trees actually talking, and students really like be quite surprised or taken back by it. I've had so many instances where things have moved and shifted, and certain elementals talking to them and all sorts. But in your case, so we did your second attunement outside, and it
Mm.
was in nature. It was in this beautiful place that I go to quite often. I've got lots of woodlands around my area where I live. And on the day, I knew it needed to be outside. I was being led to do this. And it was almost like I would say it's like a bowl in the earth. So there's all trees in it and big fields around. And you walk in, and it's like a bit of a womb, I'll say.
Yeah.
And as I was attuning you, there was petals falling, white petals falling everywhere, and there was no blossom trees anywhere to be seen. Not even in the fields, around the fields, in that whole area, there was nothing. It was falling with a light. and and as you started opening your eyes and started realizing, you started to see it as well. And that's a very real experience right there, with actual things happening. I think we went into the woods after your first attunement, and it started raining. It was the sun, like bright sun, and it just started
Yeah.
raining, and there was no cloud in the sky whatsoever, and the sun was beaming through, and there's rain falling. And there were so many experiences like that with you,
Yeah.
um, where things were shifting and moving, and it really was there to support you to remember that magic, remember that light, remember that
Yeah.
glow within you.
100%. I think from the first one where, like you say, it was autumn and the cloud was just completely clear of, sorry, the sky was completely clear of any clouds. It was beautifully sunny day. And the first time it happened, we walked into this one place and it was like water just dropping down from the tops of the trees. And to be honest, at that moment, I just thought, oh, maybe the wind's just dropping some water off of the trees, but there was no wind. And so I didn't think too much of it then. But then when we placed our hands on the second tree together, and then that one on it's just that one tree started to rain, I remember being like, whoa, whoa, what is going on? And that is what made me believe that there's so much more to life than we don't even realize and that magic does exist. And even in that second one, it wasn't even a windy day, but when he was attuning me to the Reiki, there was so much wind going on. And I'm pretty sure as soon as it stopped, the wind stopped. And that to me is life changing and something that I hope that people get to experience in that lifetime or in their lifetime. They get to experience this magic of the world that we've experienced with the elementals and I guess other light beings that people don't even know about.
And this is a thing, like, I do really believe that our natural world is so overlooked, and it is really taken for granted.
Mm.
But what we truly seek, we can find within our natural world, whether it is just taking yourself for a walk and being really aware and present on that walk of what you come across,
Mm.
whether it's certain animals, and then understanding the connection of those animals and understanding their characteristics and how those animals can have a reflection of what's happening with you at that very moment. Whether it is understanding plants on a much deeper level, whether it is understanding the elements. There's so much reflected in nature, from the seasons to the cycles to everything's here. We just have to really understand how to tap in and learn about it. And when it comes to elementals, so if you haven't heard of this term before, elementals are spirits. So they're nature spirits, and they're in everything from trees to mushrooms to, flowers, to the way that the elements move. And all elementals have this ability to support us, and teach us in many ways. And when we are ready to listen and open ourselves up, we can have this connection to the elementals, and they will talk. They will talk to us. And elementals can become disgruntled when the lands are unhappy. So if there's been a lot of trauma on lands, and all over the earth, there is so many places where the lands have experienced so much trauma and so much blood spilled. So the elementals come in to protect, to serve and support. And when we start to build this awareness and this connection, they will come to us to speak in different ways and share with us how we can be of service to the earth, how we can support this change in what's to come.
Mm. So how did the elementals speak to you, Rachel? And
In
what do you
many,
feel? Yeah, go with it.
many different ways. I think elementals have always spoken to me, even as a child. I grew up in Australia. I spent a lot of time outside in nature, connecting to different plants and trees, and whether it was in my garden or whether it was, connecting to nature, going hiking, going for big walks, all sorts. Connecting with plant medicine in my younger days. They loved to come through then, because I was so open. But they really do speak in different ways, and it could be as subtle as just the way that something moves, or it could be, a certain light that comes through, and
Mm.
it could be just in the trees, so that they can speak to us where we hear it, or we can feel it. It just
Yeah.
depends on what your senses come forth to you, in a strong way. So if depending on what your sensory abilities are, we all have this connection with our senses, in, physical ways. We can hear, we can smell, we can see physically, we can taste, we feel the clothes that are on us. But there's also this extra level of sensory that we can connect into, which is what energy work really does support us with. And this is where we can start to sense things beyond, the seeing, as I said before, the seeing eye, or what we can physically feel on our bodies with our clothes. And energy work really supports that sensory connection. And this is where, you can start to build that connection with otherworldly beings, or, spirit in general.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. And I know I've always been really connected as well to nature. And one thing that I felt really connected to even more so during our attunement was birds. And I actually just before this had a client of mine who I did coaching for just send me a random voice note saying, I really feel like the birds are speaking to me at the moment. And I don't know what it is, but they're just like looking at me in the eye. And I know there's birds everywhere, but I just feel like they're speaking to me. And I feel like that's a good example of if you just feel as though something's connecting with you, then it is speaking to you. It doesn't have to be something physically actually talking to you. Is that something that you would agree with?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Animals can be some of our biggest teachers. And
Absolutely.
it's all from spirit. We are spirit.
Yes.
We are spirit, and everything around us is spirit. It's just tapping into that energy of it.
Mm-hmm. What would you say that, how would you say for other people, if they don't want to go down the energy healing route, if that doesn't kind of connect for them, how else do you feel like people can connect to their own soul and their own spirit?
Many different ways. I say the biggest way to connect with yourself is start to understand yourself, and start to understand your senses on a much deeper level. And you can do that through meditation, through nature connection, through breath work. It's really about coming back to yourself as like an elemental being.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about how you can work with the elements on a day-to-day basis, and how your relationship with the elements are in general, whether it is, connecting to your mind through meditation, connecting to your breath, that's connecting to air, whether it is connecting to your physical body and through movement, that's connecting to fire, whether it is connecting to water through emotional and intuitive connections. We can connect with the elements in so many different ways. And
Yeah.
earth is, through what we eat, through what we nourish ourselves, how we ground ourselves, and it's not even about grounding, it's really about presence. Yeah, there's so many ways that we can just come into that connection. It doesn't have to be just this, I guess you could say, this huge cathartic, energetic, spiritual revolution. It's actually in the small things every day.
Yeah.
That's where we really start to understand how it works.
100%. And there's so many different ways, like you've just stated, that you can connect yourself, whether that's through breath work. But I think it's also important that you're intuitive with it, because there's so much information coming out now, isn't there, where it's like such big trends and things like that going on with breath work, yoga, whatever it is. And I know for me during my life, there's certain seasons and phases that I feel called to do different things, whether that is the breath work or just gentle walking in nature. And one thing that I'd love and feel called to talk to you about is when people are awakening or are wanting to take care of themselves more, is to have that discernment. And I know something that's going is quite popular at the moment on Netflix is actually apple cider vinegar, which is this wellness influencer who's pretending that she can heal herself holistically, and had a brain tumor but didn't. So what advice would you either give to me, to our audience, to your younger self about having discernment during this journey of exploring yourself?
I think first and foremost, it is being open up, like opening yourself up to new experiences, but going in there with curiosity and also caution, you know. And I think that's the biggest thing, because when we're going through these processes of whether it's an awakening or trying to look after ourselves on a much deeper level, or understanding ourselves, or what this life is, we can be in a very vulnerable place, and that vulnerable place can lead us to connecting to practices or teachers that might not always be the best thing for us. But even in those circumstances, we're still learning something. You know, there's been many times in my life where I have been led down the wrong path, but I say wrong, it's actually led me to somewhere else from there. And I think that all the experiences that I have had, I've needed to have those experiences to become a very strong person and a very strong, I don't want to say a healer because I've never resonated with that, but a facilitator for others, a mentor for others. And so now I can step up and hold people so much deeper through those experiences because of maybe the not so nice experiences that I've had in my life. Everything leads us to somewhere, but I think discernment really needs to be this open curiosity and also not trusting everything you hear. Like if you're starting to sense red flags, it's asking the question, is that my fear, or is this something that is not right for me in this time? Yeah, because a lot of the time, you know, our fear can override us, and fear can also come into intuition as well. And, you know, you hear a lot of practitioners and facilitators and mentors and whoever they are talking a lot about trusting your intuition. But what if your intuition is coming from a place within you that is stemmed from fear and from a disorientated nervous system? You know, because a lot of us, our nervous systems are fucked. And I say that because day and age right now where, you know, our society is moving at a pace that we can't keep up with. Yeah. And this is why we are starting to search and starting to look at different avenues to support ourselves, you know, much deeper. And this is why we're starting to, you know, come into these places of looking at different modalities and so on. So it's really understanding yourself, coming into practice to really support your nervous system first and foremost. And how do we do that? It's coming back to basics. And then coming to trust yourself as well. Yes, we need support from others outside of ourselves when we're going through something. We can't close ourselves off and take it on board. Just like we were talking about before, you know, when you're going through these experiences and you start seeing things and you start like connecting to things that, you know, kind of almost, I'll say like shock you in a way.
Yeah.
We need to connect with others for support, but also we need to come to a place of like trusting ourselves too.
Yeah,
And trusting
100%. I love that you said that there's no wrong path to go down, because I don't want people to feel scared from things that they hear of people having a bad experience in these type of spaces, because one way or another you're going to learn. And I know for me that whether I've had a quote unquote bad relationship because I just forgot about the red flags and didn't look into them, it's looking back on those experiences and noticing, oh, that's what my intuition is, and that's what actually feeling unsafe is, and feeling dysregulated in your nervous system. And I think it takes experience to understand that about yourself instead of just hearing about it. It's actually going and experiencing it. So I'm glad that you said that and cleared that up for people. And on from there,
oh, sorry. Well,
I
I
was
was
just
gonna say it's almost like, you know, you go into dating or you go into I'll say a new job instead, because dating's a little bit of a whole nother level. But
yeah,
you go into when you're looking for a new job and you're looking at these job applications and you can feel what feels right for you. You know what you want. So, well, in a way, we don't always know what we fully want, but I do feel like picking the right support is like that.
Yeah.
It's like, does this person make me feel supported? Does this person make me feel held? Do they have the right credentials to be holding X, Y, and Z? Um,
Mm.
because I think there's such a big thing within these spaces now that everyone's popping up thinking that they can hold a space with little to no training, without any of the experience. And they are very powerful spaces, but they might not be trained in like trauma informant and all sorts of things like that. So
Yeah.
there's a real importance to connecting with people and practitioners that are actually there to support you wholesomely. And there's nothing against practitioners that are in the process of learning. I'm still learning. I've been in this industry, for 13, 14 years. I started my energy journey when I was, I think, 22 or 23. And even before that, as a child, I was having experiences with spirits visiting me in the night. I was having experiences of past life dreams and connections and all sorts of things going on. I was like the OG with crystals as a kid. I was like 8 years old and had crystals in my pocket before I even knew what that was.
Yeah.
I was looking at astrology and in the library and trying to hide the books from my parents because I didn't want them to see what I was learning. But I knew everyone's compatibility like in my class back then.
I love
With
that.
astrology. And like it's a life, but I still feel like I'm a student and I still am a student.
Yeah.
Last year I took 12 months off from working with clients because I needed to go back to learn. I needed to come back to myself and start to explore things much more deeply. And even though I've had these intuitive skills for such a long time that I have developed over the years, I needed to go back and develop it more and work with it on a much deeper level,
Mm.
connecting through mediumship and other things. So we are constantly a student within these realms. We are never fully, I'll say we're never fully there. But also, so it's knowing that, it's okay to not know everything. But there's also this deep understanding of responsibility, and having that responsibility comes at great lengths when you're
Mm.
working with other people.
Massively. And I think people, when you go into these spaces of exploring yourself, whether it is through yoga, breathwork, energy healing, there's so much beyond what we can see with, like I've already said, that keeps coming through. There's so much more that we know what's actually happening beyond our physical eyes. And if you don't know what you're doing with that, it can actually, I don't want to say the word harmful, but it's you need to ground the space. We need to close the space. We need to know how to open, close, and if not, it's yeah, people don't understand what could happen. So it is having that discernment and having that right training and feeling who you feel called to connect with as well. And that's part of using your intuition and that pull, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I've seen so many practitioners, teachers, trainers over the years, even in the realms of energy work. And this
Mm.
is not their fault at all. And I would say it's probably the modalities that they've invested into and they've learned, where that foundation of energy work, the foundation of how to work with energy isn't there. So then they're going in, not protecting themselves. They're coming out of sessions so burnt out from the energy work because it's not flowing in a way that supports them. There's so many things that happen with that. And I see this with a lot of the trainings and stuff that are out now, where you're doing a day training and then off you go. And it's like, but those foundations are so important. They're so integral for your own health and well-being, and to make sure that you're protected. And protection isn't just like, putting on a coat and hiding yourself, oh, I don't want anything attaching to me. No, it's very much like this protection of being embodied in your practice. And I talk a lot about embodiment because it's something that is so overlooked, and to really be embodied is to really practice what you preach, coming into that modality, whether it is, learning yoga or meditation or breath, whatever it is, but it's coming in and taking time to really understand what this is, how it supports you, but what that effect is doing to other people. Yeah. So yeah, we're in a very funny time when it comes to I think the spiritual wellness industry right now. I think it's great because it's becoming a lot more accessible. There's a lot more emphasis on it right now, and it's becoming a more mainstream. So, but with that, on the other side of that, there's things that need to come into play, and things aren't regulated properly. So there's a lot of people that are just like learning these practices, and they're just learning off one person, and and it's like a day training, and a lot of the things that our culture is saying and using, like even certain sayings, it can be really damaging, really detrimental. Coming back to like, use your intuition, follow your intuition. For someone who has experienced trauma, telling them to follow their intuition can support them to completely shut down and shut themselves off from the rest of the world. Because, again, that fear comes in and it's like, this isn't safe. This isn't safe. And they're like, I can't connect with the world. I just need to be in a cave in nature for the rest of my life. Like, if I followed my deep seated intuition, I wouldn't be here in the UK right now. Like, I seriously would be on my own deserted island away from everyone and everything. So, like we have to be really discerning, not only with the practitioners and teachers that we work with, but also with ourselves. Like, is these feelings, these sensations that I'm having within my body coming from fear or love? And if it's coming from fear, what is it that I need to sit within this to understand? If it's coming from love, okay, great. Let's work with that as well. Let's understand that too. Because again, coming back to trauma, when you're someone that's experienced trauma, and this is a big part of the work that I am doing now, because I have gone through certain traumas within my life. So stepping into this role of supporting others, I really want to support them through experiences of trauma. And it's not about releasing it, because you never release trauma. It's a process. It's processing. And when it comes to this, I've lost my train of thought on that, but it's coming somewhere. It's coming around in some sort of circle, but really being able to like witness someone in that place and going through that process is what truly is so supportive. And if we're not able to support someone in a deeper level like that, and if we don't understand this basis of trauma in itself, because everyone's so unique when it comes to trauma. Like, my traumas will be different to your traumas, different to the traumas of people that come into my space. We have to understand that one thing, this cookie cutter thing that might work for you, doesn't always work for someone else. So it's being so adaptable to that.
Do you believe that everybody has some sort of trauma that they need to work through in this lifetime?
So my understanding, and I spent, quite a few years understanding, I guess, wounding and trauma and so on. And I guess it comes back to my understanding of astrology in general. And
Mm-hmm.
so I studied medical astrology quite a few years ago, and where you can look at someone's chart and understand like different ailments or things that they might go through within this life, to learn the lessons and come into this space of blessings from that. So it could be like, physical things, it could be mental, it could be anything. So you can see what's happening within someone's birth chart. You can literally see everything. It is a roadmap, like an imprint of your soul's journey, not just in this life, in other lives, but mainly in this life as well. So how you connect with others, um, romance, relationships, like
Yeah.
how you connect in relationships, like finances, like everything, your work ethics, what you truly need on a fundamental level, like your fundamental needs. But it also can show up like wounding as well. And everyone has that part within them that is the wounded healer, and that is called Chiron within the astrology chart. And Chiron really teaches us that we aren't alone within our wounding. Yes, it's unique. Yes, it's different from person to person where that placement is within your astrology chart. But we are all connected within that, so we're all
Yeah.
constantly going through this process of understanding it. And are we ever fully going to release it? No, it's just going to shift and change. you know
Mm.
it's not about overcoming it. It's almost like, I'd say, befriending it in a way to understand it, so
Yeah.
then you can grow as a human, because this is why we're here to grow.
Yeah.
We're here to be in that place of growth.
I was just going to ask that question. What do you think that you're here for in this lifetime?
I feel like it's a very complex and layered thing, because I don't think we're always here for one thing.
Agreed.
I I think it's quite faceted, and we, each individual one of us are here to go through certain experiences. And I think we try and seek this like one understanding of why we're here, and what our purpose is and what our soul mission is. But it is a faceted thing. There's so many different levels, there's so many different layers to it. And my understanding for myself is, a big part of why I'm here is to really support myself from a fuck ton of trauma, from speaking in public in past
Mm.
lives. This is only
Mm.
one facet of it. I'm happy to
Yeah,
share.
dive into that.
So I'm going to speak a bit about past lives and so on now. So a past life is something that your soul has experienced. So not everyone may resonate with this. So if you don't resonate with it, that's absolutely okay. So for instance, my soul has been on earth many, many, many times, many, many times. And uh, from experiences of working as a priestess in the temples in Egypt, from other experiences of being a channel for spirits and being a witch, so many different things, being an alchemist.
Mm.
I've had many past lives working with energy in many different ways. And one past life that I have a huge remembrance of was, I was standing in, it was almost like this big courtyard, and there was people, and I was on a platform, and I was speaking, I was channeling, you know almost like, when you see prophets or priests or things like that, speaking on a podium in front of, many people. And that's what I was doing. And I was a woman in this time, and the priests were not happy with what I was sharing, because I was sharing truth. And at that time, religion was a huge thing. And I was pulled off that platform, and I was brutally tortured to a point where I couldn't use my voice anymore. And I couldn't speak. I don't want to go too much into it because it might be a little bit triggering for people, but the nuns came and grabbed me and took me into a nunnery and supported in my healing process, but I was never able to speak, and I was so traumatized from that. So coming into this life,
That is traumatic.
it is. It's so
Yeah.
traumatic. And the biggest, one of my biggest traumas is actually speaking in public. And even though I had this soul connection of teaching and teaching on a large scale, and I've held many events and trainings and all sorts of things, it's taken me a lot of time to get to a place where I am where I am right now. And that trauma still comes up. Last year I had an amazing article written about my work with my sacred rage journeys that I was taking people through. And, it was in the Times. And I completely went into a space of in fear. I was completely stifled by it. And so it comes up, and we just have to continue to work with those things and see it and be aware of it. And it's hard to be aware of it when you're in it.
Yeah. But I love how you said that, even though you've worked through a lot of that trauma, which you feel has come from a past life, it still comes up for you because there's going to be layers to your life where more is going to be shown of what you're sharing, and the truth is going to keep expanding and expanding. And the more people that see that, the more your nervous system, I guess, in a sense, and your past trauma or present trauma is going to, get scared of. And I think that's really inspiring that you don't pretend to be this all-seeing, all-knowing, perfect person, because to me, you're perfect in every way. But I know that we're all just humans and no one's like better than another or anything like that. And with knowing about past lives, I know that personally I believe in them. I feel like I've experienced them through dreams and things. Is that how do you experience past lives, and how do you feel and experience like the story you just said, that past life experience?
So sometimes it can come up very physical. So speaking about this experience in general, a few years ago, I was offered a opportunity to speak in front of quite a lot of people, again, in workshops. And it was an amazing festival. I was so excited about it. But with the lead up to it, I was having very physical things happening to me where marks were showing up, like hand marks were showing up on my body and rope marks around my neck. So this is all stuff that was connected to that past life. Again, trigger warning on this. So I was actually having very physical experiences where it was showing up physically on my skin. And then how I also experience it is through visuals. So it could be, so in that time I was having nuns coming into my home, into my space, and I'm seeing these physical things. I'm like, what's happening? And these nuns are speaking to me in French, in another language, and they're trying to help me. And I'm like, and so it can come up very, very visual. It can be that I'm hearing things, sensing and feeling them, felt experiences, quite a strong sense of mine. So when I was having those quite real experiences with that, I had to really sit in a space and, bring in this energy of protection and understanding that I was safe now. But I needed to go through that. I needed to see the experience of what happened to me to understand that the real experiences I was having in the here and now was very reflective of that. And how I am safe to stand up and speak in front of people now. But you need to it's almost like you do the work with your mind. So it's like a mindset thing. And this is a big thing with healing in general. And when you're going through your processes, what your mind says might be different to what your body says. So you might have processed, the whole experience in your mind, but if you haven't processed it in your body's still feeling that trauma very
Massively.
strongly. So I think this is where we start to come into this understanding of, I guess, healing in and processing and going through that process of growth, is that one modality isn't going to be like the cookie cutter of it. It is a few different things that we need to bring in to support us through that process, you know,
Yeah,
like
massively.
somatics as well as the mind stuff, and you know, just being able to go through it at our own pace. What helps
Yeah.
you might not help that other person, and vice versa. So
Yeah. And that's why I love the philosophy of yoga being mind, body, soul approach, that just like you say, healing something on the mind level won't be as effective as bringing it all together with all the different modalities. And I know that you have explored so many different modalities from the past life healing things. So I'd love you to explore and talk to us a bit more about your favorite healings and your background through finding the, I know it would be a long thing to go through, but I love that you're into your sound healing and all of that. So delve into all the practices that you've found effective for yourself.
there's been different things at different times. So yeah, maybe I'll start with what I'm connecting to right now, and
Yeah.
sort of like what my process looks like at the moment. So sound, you did touch on sound. Sound has been a huge part of my own journey in general. And oh, I love vibrational sound. Again, it comes back to energy with
Mm,
that. So at the moment, I'm holding a lot of space for myself with working with different vibrations of sound, and through different ways as well. So you might be able to see here. My partner brought me some decks, some DJ decks for my
oh yeah.
birthday
Oh my
last
God. I
year.
love
So
that.
yeah, I'm actually exploring like recording sound at the moment, and working with the crystal bowls, with the gongs, you know, with all different sound instruments. So
Oh.
yeah, and just kind of exploring it in other ways. And yeah, sound is a huge thing. It is a huge part of me, and just my everyday, whether it is like
Mm.
listening to certain music, whether it is moving to music, whether it is creating music. It's been that thing that's really transformed me. Mm.
Yeah, I really feel when I think about you and connect to you, like your passion for sound and also experiencing your sound healing as well, which was so profound. You are so connected and in tune with it. And it's like this ancient wisdom and teaching that you provide from it. It reminds me of like, I know that you touch a lot and have such a connection to Egypt, but I feel like for you that is such a connection, and the sound obviously, I don't know if it comes from that place, but it feels very resonant with Egypt. I don't know if that makes sense for you.
Absolutely. In Egypt, in the temples, they used a lot of sound within their own healings and the alchemy that they were working with. And, you know, sound crystal bowls aren't just something that's come in the last 10 to 20 years. Like they're something that they had in those times, and they worked with the different vibrations. And, you know, even in certain tombs and the pyramids, they're at a certain frequency. So they've been created a certain way to hold a certain frequency, a certain
Mm,
vibration.
yeah.
And they were so on it, so much more than what we are now, but we're
Yeah.
awakening to that again. And you know, there's many different cultures and civilizations that worked with sound through healing and transformative practices. And you know, the ancient like Chinese traditions, they worked with sound through, like the emperor would move from like different villages or different provinces at certain times to go and visit and see how they were going. And they would play certain instruments, and he would be able to tell if the keys were off, what was happening within those provinces, and you know, just things like that. It's really incredible, and there's so much that we can learn from music in general, you know, whether it is our own sound, our own voice, our own vibration through that, to actually connecting with certain sounds and frequencies and tones. And you know, we can really support our DNA to shift and change within that. And I've seen that through sound baths, or you know, even just connecting to your own humming, you know, sitting there in the morning and humming and feeling that vibration within you. This starts to shift things within you. You know, it starts to support that restructuring of your DNA. And I know we've touched a lot on trauma. You know, just because we have experienced trauma, it doesn't mean that that DNA has to stay within us. You know, it does shift and change. So we can utilize modalities like sounds, like breath work, like yoga, like these things to really support this shift in our DNA. You know, a big thing that I've had to work with over the past 10 years being in this country. So I was very much led to move to the UK from a young age, and I knew I was going to come over here, and I knew that I was coming here for a reason, but I didn't understand it fully then. And I
What
thought this,
age were you?
oh, I was probably, I would say probably around like 12 or 13. And then
Oh, wow.
I came over when I was 16 with my family, and I had this deep connection, and I knew that I was going to move back here one day. And I was
Wow.
very led by that. And you know, coming here, it's been a challenge, but it's also it's been a big rebirth. I'll say, you know, a lot of stuff has died within me, and a lot of stuff has been reborn. And you know, through that challenge, it's shown me that I was led here because I needed to do a lot of ancestral healing for my lineages and for the
Right.
lines to come.
And so
So
do you feel like if you stayed in Australia, the ancestral healing wouldn't be as strong as if you came over to the UK?
I think that it will come, it always comes through in a way that it's meant to. But I think if we try and shut ourselves off from those deep callings that are within us, it
Mm.
can shut us off from going through that experience. And it might be another life that we have to process it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So where are you at right now? I know that you said that sound is a very big moment for you, like for your healing modality that you're experiencing. I know that you've also hosted events that I went to, the Sacred Rage, which you touched upon as well, which was featured in the Times and was just incredible, where you help people process emotions, specifically that one, anger, using sound, using the music, using our voices, using movement. It all comes together in that. So what can we see from you going forward, and what are you working on now that you want to share, if there is anything?
So my time in the UK is coming to an end now. So I'm moving, we're looking at September time. So it's all coming into
Close.
moment. But over the next couple of months, I am going to start holding space again for group events, and they are going to be based around rebirthing and the rage connection and so on. But it is going to be for women, so they are women only groups. So once they're back up and running, I'll definitely share a bit more about that. And I'm really excited to be doing that. And I'm going to be moving a lot of my work online. So working with wellness businesses and for can't talk now. For like for business planning and consultancy and so on. So I will be doing bits and pieces like that. But also I'm really excited to welcome people into like our space when we move abroad. So yeah, hoping to start trainings and things like that again. And then also I'll be holding some online trainings. So a big thing that I'm working on at the moment is a training for imposter paralysis, and just supporting people to move through the motions of that, because you know, I know firsthand how difficult it can be when you are in that place of paralysis and you're feeling like an imposter in your own life. And I feel like it's something that's so supportive of people within these realms. So, I think probably every single person that has come into my space has felt like an imposter as they're going through their journey. So this is something that I really want to support people with much
Mm.
deeper.
That's beautiful. And to say that you had or still have that fear of speaking in front of a lot of people, to then go ahead and host events and really put yourself out there despite that fear is just really, really inspiring to not just tell people how to get through it, but you're that physical embodiment, like you said, that it is possible, even if that fear is there, to continue expressing from the heart, which is just so important, and share your truth. And I'm just so grateful that we connected, and I can't wait to continue connecting together and see where our journeys of life continue to take us. And you've just spoken so beautifully today. So thank you for sharing your beautiful voice. And there's just one little close out that I like to end the podcast with is, what would you like to share with your younger self that may resonate with the audience, and with yourself and me?
Oh, oh,
Take your
um,
time.
what would I like to share with her? That you are worthy and you are enough, and to keep shining your light, even in the darkest times.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Where can we find you if people want to connect with you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Rachael Morley _.
Perfect. I'll pop that in the show notes as well so people can click and find you there. But yeah, this is the end of the She Who Glows podcast with Rachael Morley. Thank you so much for joining us, and I will see everyone on another podcast very soon. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.